is made to, not to the members so much of our agency, or not to the judge that's standing there swearing in the sheriff. That oath is to you. And I've known this man long enough that he's going to defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California in the best possible interests of you, the public of his county and the state of California.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. One more. So in my mind, the Federal Reserve is going to fail any minute. And there is no money in the state. Everybody knows the state's been broke for how long, and the federal government's been broke for how long, and it's all phony money. There's no standard behind the money any longer. And you guys are constantly talking about more funds, more funds, more funds. Well, that scares me because it's still dependent on that outside source instead of bringing it home and taking care of ourselves. I know as an independent person who's built his own life, I can take care of myself. And through that, I take care of others. And I've seen this happen more and more and more, time and time again, when the excuse the expression, shit hits the fan, we get down to business. And like you guys are innovating ways of dealing with the criminals and stuff. I've seen them out on our county roads and cleaning up the trash and stuff. My company, cleans one of the highways, Highway 5. My question is, when can we stop that kind of language and start taking care of our own? I mean, as sheriffs, when do you say martial law to the federal government, the state government, and we start taking care of our own? When do we say that? Because we can't keep going this. We can't just keep hoping and hoping instead of just doing and doing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of that just comes down to the fact that for county sheriffs, the sheriffs that are here, one is, being aware of what you say, the economics of the world. We have to live by what we see coming and trying to prepare not only ourselves, our departments, and our communities.
Right.
We know what pressures the state's under. We know what issues our individual counties are under. And part of our jobs as sheriffs is to see what's coming on the horizon and try to best prepare our departments as we go forward so that we continue to provide the kind of services, or at least the minimal, the services that we know we are needed to and can provide. And it's we went through that 2008 shutdown, and I think we have more hard and difficult times coming. When they're going to come, how they're going to come, what direction they're going to come, I don't know. But I do know that we have another bubble that's eventually going to hit us, and how that will relate and impact our counties, because we know that the state of California is looking at an unbridled debt that it cannot cover right now due to unfunded mandates in its retirement programs and in its bonds that it has promised, its obligations that it's further behind. And that just puts more burdens on local government and state government. And we're aware of that. I mean, most of us, we get the briefings, we listen to the issues, we know what our counties are facing individually, and then it just falls on the shoulders of the sheriffs to say, how do we deal with that? How do we best plan for it, and how do we prepare for that? And that just comes to really knowing your job and being able to adapt as we come to these very difficult times that I think, economically, we're not over the hill. We're not into good times yet in the state of California. You look at Southern Oregon right now, what's going on in Josephine, in Klamath, in Curry, in Jackson County. Jackson's a little better off because they have a little bit stronger economic base. But when you look at those counties, Curry County, they just They just did not pass a bond act so that they could fund their jail. They have 5 deputies for the entire. They're much like Modoc. They don't have 24/7 operation. They can't provide around-the-clock patrol. Jackson County, very much the same way. And what happened there? The timber tax went away. The federal government stopped subsidizing the states of Oregon and several other states with what they used to provide in lieu of taxes. We're facing that in Delaware County. We're down over $400,000, I believe, in funds that should have come to Delaware County in lieu of tax for property that is being held by the state of California, and the state's not paying its bills. And because we're not getting that money, it means we have less services to provide to the counties, that we have money to provide to our communities. So yeah, it is a challenge, and part of our job is to look and see what's coming on the horizon and try to prepare it.
You know, as I was, I'm sorry, John, I'll just take it. As I was driving in this morning, I saw the sign for Crescent City and the population, about 8,800 folks here. And I want to salute each one of you for being here today. You took a beautiful Saturday afternoon and took time to be engaged in local government. And that's what it's all about. I gave a statement to the paper yesterday regarding this meeting in Humboldt County. Actually, it was the news, TV news. And I said, this is an exercise in people coming together and sharing information and ideas and being engaged in government. You have just as much responsibility to be engaged as we do. And as sheriffs, we yearn for the support of our communities. But there are so many people that have gone to sleep at the wheel, so to speak, that are not engaged because of a mentality in this country of give to me, I'm not going to give to you. But we need your support, and that's why I'm encouraged to see you folks here, because I do realize you support your sheriff, you support your local government, but it's this interaction that's very important, and it needs to catch on. And as we get that support, and knowing that we're going in the direction of the people who vote us into office, we know we're going in the right direction for them, gives us more power to go in the direction we need to go. We know what you want, but we also need that backing to go forward.
I just want to make a quick comment about the funding question. I don't like asking for federal or state funding either. However, I had almost 38 years in active duty in reserve military, in addition to my almost 37 years in law enforcement. What country or what military force, if they're being attacked, would leave their back door open? Or if you go on vacation, are you going to leave your front door open or your back door open? No, because you're going to be robbed blind. Well, right now, we have an unsecure border. That's just one of the issues that we're plagued with as sheriffs. And I mentioned these drug cartels. I have no problem telling the federal government, hey, you know what? You're creating a lot of the problems we're having in our respective counties. Our crime rate is exponentially growing. We have an uncontrollable drug problem. Well, guess what? About 80% of the illicit drugs that come into California are coming in here from Mexico. So I don't have a problem saying, hey, federal government, until you get your act together and secure our borders so we can have real homeland security and real public safety, I don't have any problem you paying for your stupid mistakes. Secondarily, and again, I'm not, a lot of the federal agencies work very hard to protect us. I was in the military for many years, and I know a lot of them are very dedicated. But I'll tell you that we lack the political will, the leadership at the higher levels to do the things we need to do to secure our nation and our public safety at the borders. And I'm not criticizing the special agents on the ground, but someone way up is making some really poor decisions that are impacting us. So again, all us sheriffs need help because we're flooded with illicit drugs. human trafficking, guns, everything else, and the crime that comes with it. This last, I was down at a border conference down in New Mexico last week. I had to leave early because of the fires. We had a bunch of Texas and border sheriffs down there, and they are at war every day. And they're telling us that they had MS-13 gang members, one of the deadliest gangs from El Salvador, coming across the border in this with these 75 or 80,000 adolescents and other younger people, and we were letting them go because they didn't have a criminal record in the U.S. Now, is that dumb or what? Well, guess what? All these sheriffs have to deal with those problems. Conversely, we wouldn't need any governmental assistance or very little governmental assistance if the government would empower the people. What did Reagan do after well, I guess I could say lackluster, tour of duty of Jimmy Carter administration? When our economy was bad and our military was at a low point, you know what he did? The two things. He lowered taxes and he cut all these stupid regulatory provisions that were dragging us down. And then what happened? We saw this upsurge in the economy that we hadn't seen in decades. So if we compel the federal government to do their jobs so that we don't have to pay for it, and we empower the people and do things, simple things like, maybe harvest our own energy, maybe lower taxes, cut regulatory provisions, we would be rolling in the money and we wouldn't have to ask for help. We'd have adequate public safety.
John?
Is there a way to have a class action lawsuit against the federal agencies that are not allowing us to have a harvest of those grounds? To make it enforced?
There are some that are looking towards that direction, as far as, especially under the issue of public safety. I know that they're looking at taking some kind of action, especially in Southern Oregon. There are several counties together that are right now working on an action. I'm watching it with some interest to see how that moves forward in their courts, because they are taking an action. Because one, they're saying, because of the federal government's mismanagement, much like they're saying in Utah, you own the land, you locked up the land. You're not providing us the base to provide the basic and necessary services to our communities. Because when you look at Utah, you're looking at almost 80% of their land is federal holdings. And they're saying, because you own so much of the land, because you're not doing the things that you could do with it, allowing the mining, allowing the harvesting, allowing the oil, allowing these things to be done, it's adversely affecting our ability as a state to provide the same quality of services that the other states are enjoying, because they don't have 80% of their land held up by federal government. And so, it's an argument that Oregon's going to be making. I'm going to be, interested in seeing how it prevails through the courts. One of the other things that I'm very proud of with these sheriffs in this last 4 years, especially, was in the history of the state sheriffs, we had never taken a vote on a firearms issue to take a stand in opposition. It's always been a hot button issue because of the fact that so many sheriffs are urban, others are not, and so it was pretty much just everybody could make their own decision how they personally as a sheriff wanted to step up on some of these very controversial, or at least I look at them as controversial, gun issues. Personally, I don't think they're that controversial. I think it's pretty much, they violate the Constitution, so don't pass the legislation. But what we did in this last 2 years was sheriffs in the state of California, through the State Sheriff's Association, stood up and we actually opposed several of the pieces of firearms legislation that was being proposed. And a lot of these sheriffs here, all these sheriffs here I know, have drafted letter after letter after letter, especially this last year when they were again attempting to pass the tax and a proposal on ammunition, making a requirement to have background investigations done on every individual that wanted to purchase ammo in the state of California. You'd have to pay for that service every 2 years. The state of California Department of Justice was going to keep those records, and you would have to pay for that background clearance, and you would have to go and pay additional taxes when you bought your ammo, and it would have forbidden online sales of ammunition into the state of California. It would have cost not only millions of dollars, but it would have so infringed your basic rights of the Second Amendment. And when you talk about the Second Amendment, it's not about the right to keep and bear arms. Trust me. It's just the right of self-protection, and that's what it comes down to. And that is a human right. Every animal has the right to defend themselves. And the Second Amendment is just your right of self-protection. But I'm so proud to have the sheriffs for the first time step up and really push back on a lot of these issues in the state of California.
John, I got to refer to you. I love you guys to begin with. I've been watching you, hearing about you. And there's some of the things that, you know, I'm 78 years old, probably over a little bit of wisdom. And I tell you right now, John, what you mentioned, bless your heart, I don't want no federal funding. I want our funding right here. That way your hands are not going to be tied, John. We don't want no federal funding. Let's take everything now. That way your hands aren't tied and we can control what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here.
First of all, I'd like to say welcome, gentlemen. I would like to Constitution, as you said about when you took your oath, it says to defend the Constitution from both foreign and domestic enemies. And I think we have a large problem with the federal government being a domestic enemy. All these guys that's been in the military know that they took an oath. I took one in 1964 and I did not take it lightly. So we got your back, gentlemen.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the sheriff for coming up, and there was so many more things I wanted to touch on, but we're running up against the clock, and I want to especially thank every one of you. Some of you I know came all the way from Wairika and to support your sheriff, and I want to thank you for that. You know, it's a beautiful day here, and I'm so honored and privileged to have these gentlemen spend a little bit of their time to come up here and talk with you, so that you better understand what are we facing, not only in Del Mar County, but across the Northern California, and what trials, what issues sheriffs see every day in order to better serve you. Thank you so much.